I could have been there and gone home, actually taken a shower before and then gone.
Yeah, you and I are probably.
Oh, yeah. And the high school is not anything. With whatever.
All these talking just all the days and I was like, right, here we go. That's what he said, but I was like, I think that's the one you thought.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, right. Hello. We have a computer? Okay. I'll just turn this way. Oh yeah, I should actually probably. I'm gonna put my phone on do not disturb so that it doesn't buzz in the middle of it. I'm gonna just come in. Oh, we have water. That's cute. Oh my God. Right now? Yeah, we're live already. Well, it's pretty good. But she wants to see if you can hear it on the loud. Check. God, that's so loud. That is so loud. That's way too loud. Mic check. Okay. Imagine if I yelled. Mr. Alexander, Mr. Stanley, Mr. Warner, Miss. Yeah, Mr. Wells, Mr. Zimmerman. I think that's right. I hope that's right. I hope this works out. I hope I don't like stutter or something. That would be no. Like be quiet. Literally, I was right here and I started laughing because someone said something and I could still hear it. I was like, on the plane. This for their number to like the thing, like I know. Yeah, we found it pretty much unopposed. It's like I'm just saying, oh, I'm gonna go see Oh. Hey, that should take a be real. Ooh, I should do that too. You're lucky the floor is bouncy. That's funny. Oh, that's horrible.
Oh, wait, you posted on time? How did you post on time? I was doing
I
it.
posted, I was at lunch or on my fifth hour.
Oh, I was at my 5th hour too, but I think I was doing like a project, so I had my phone on silent. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, because if the camera's here, don't want. This is so loud. Like I can hear myself. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so they got rid of the other.
Thank
Oh.
you.
We didn't have any time to.
What's password?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Holy cow. Wait, it was so bad for the like government one last year. Like with the senators and stuff like that.
I know this year it's like our
What actually is it like one? Not that they don't matter, but like our borough.
Yeah.
And everybody's like,
so they're like, oh Zoom. I'm like,
Zoom.
why?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know the password? Because it needs a passcode apparently.
There you go. So do we have to keep muting and unmuting ourselves or?
Put you guys in the
MC?
and you don't join the computer.
Just
Well, Warner might not. It sounds like it's stuck. I told him to send a text,
Oh,
so you guys could read it. But if he's not here, he's not here. They're just gonna leave a spot there and you're just gonna skip him. So does that mess things up a little bit?
yeah. Well, each person will give 3 questions now. So. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Ooh. What will that do?
I don't know.
It's okay.
Why are these people?
I don't know. I think it's so people on the Zoom like thing can hear. So I don't need to join audio, like I'm confused.
Just saying like half of the people.
Jared Zimmerman, Jason Moore, oh, he's here, sorry. Jared Zimmerman, David Alexander, is he here?
I thought I saw him.
That was the question. Will you repeat for everyone? Just read it once. Hopefully won't,
So
but-
are we needing to like, where's like mute or unmute or anything or no? It's just gonna go.
Yeah, it's just in there.
Okay,
I don't know what
perfect.
I mean.
So
it's
just
not-
leave it. Don't.
Do side conversations.
Okay.
You guys have a hotline.
Yep.
They can hear you.
You wanna use online? Like, do you wanna like pass? I think you probably don't wanna.
Why don't we just speak into it? Cause it's about it effectively.
Oh, I guess we could be like right here.
Does that work? You're kind of like hitting a little bit.
I don't need, no. I don't need it.
Okay. You have it like.
Might have to change.
So they're all, or no, do it. Oh my gosh.
The noise.
Just say question. This isn't here. Oh, are we going to find- Where's the? Oh, he's coming? Yes, sir. Oh, never mind, my bad, my bad.
put the pledge in. Each person's. Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. Ready?
Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Borough Assembly Candidate Forum. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm Paige and this is Kayla, and we will be your MCs for tonight.
This forum is hosted by the Tri-Valley Junior and Senior classes. You may be wondering, why are a bunch of students doing this? Well, we want to allow our community members to hear what each candidate provides and how they can make an impact.
Our student moderators this evening are McKinley, Addison, and Nick. Our timekeepers this evening are Jack and Cordell. And our student technology leaders are Savannah, Paxton, Kenshin, Addie, Rosemary, Robert, Ben, Wyatt, and Michael.
Tonight, we welcome Assembly candidates David Alexander, Jeremy Stanfield, Walter Warner, Krista Zappone, Jason Wells, and Jared Zimmerman.
The forum procedure is as follows. The speaking order for the questions will move from left to right. Mr. Alexander will be the first to answer the question, and then it will follow down the line. Each candidate will have 1:15 to answer each question. Each candidate will give a minute opening speech starting from left to right, so we will hear from Mr. Alexander first. Each candidate will give a 2-minute closing speech starting from right to left, so Mr. Zimmerman will begin. A 30-second left card will be held up. A red card when time is up, and an over 10-second buzzer will sound. Please hold all applause until all candidates are finished with each question.
Many of the questions you will hear this evening were submitted by our local communities. Due to time constraints and rules that guide the type of questions, some questions may not be asked and others may have been edited.
We will begin the forum with an opening speech from each candidate. Mr. Alexander, you may begin.
I guess I use this. Can you hear me? Good. All right. Well, the pressure's on me. My name's David Alexander. I'm running for seat B. I'm running unopposed. I am in the second year of my first term, so I haven't actually finished out the term. But because of redistricting, I'm up. All of us are up for re-election. So I've only been for 2 years, and I'm still feel like I'm kind of learning the job, having a lot of fun at it. I'll keep my comments kind of short, but I think that the thing that I've learned, excuse me, most is, what a good job the current staff is doing. And it's really, I've been very impressed with, the professionalism, the leadership of the mayor, and I think things are going pretty well. Oh, that's time's up. Wow. All right. I say we're on a good track and I want to keep it that way. That was quick.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Stanfield. Nice to see some familiar faces out there. I've been here in Healy for just over 10 years now. My wife and I own the Denali Dog House, which is in the canyon. It's open in the summertime. And then we have a second grader here at Tri-Valley. So we have really enjoyed living here in the Denali Borough. And, over time, I suppose I've just gotten myself more involved. I enjoy following along at all of the meetings and, agree that it's really impressive to see how it's being run for, such a small, tight-knit community. And so I just am in a position where I'd love to throw my name in the hat and lend my time and support in pushing everything along further. So thank you.
I'm Walt Warner, and I'm running because I had a number of people ask me to run because several seats were being vacated. My views on government are that government, as much as possible, should be done at a local level. In most places, in most times, when government is handled locally, people tend to have more of everything, more freedom to do what they want to do, more independence to make their own choices, and to utilize their resources as they see fit. And we're blessed to live in America where there's more of that to go around than anywhere that we have record of. And so I feel that being somebody that believes in local government, I should be involved in it and just make sure that we try and keep things as local as possible. That's me.
Hey, everybody. Chris is Zapone. I recognize most of you guys, so thanks for coming to be here in person. We appreciate it. I've been serving on the Denali Borough since 2014. I've done chair of the finance committee, a part of several of the specialty grant meetings. And the reason why I'm here to still be involved is because I'm proud of the way our government operates. We have our forward funding mandate, means that we have to, by code, manage our budget responsibly every year. We cannot spend more than we get. And there are some challenges that we've looked at with land planning in schools and things like that as well. So just as far as to keep a consistent perspective or voice on the borough is why I'm here mostly, and to continue to serve you guys.
Hello, Jason Wells, been in the community for 20 years, own Denali Service Center, have 2 kids, go to school here. Been going here their whole life, so know a lot of people in here, most people. Being here 20 years, it's time for me to get more involved in the community at this level of it too. I mean, I'm out in the community, but it's more I need to be involved with this part of it, and hopefully I can do a good part. Never done anything like this before, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming out tonight, and thanks to the junior and senior class for hosting us here tonight. Important that people get to know their candidates and know who they're voting for. I've been on the assembly for about 10 years since the last time we redistricted, and there got to be a seat out for the Pangini Ferry neighborhood. So I'm running for that seat again. And yeah, look forward to answering all the questions and hearing everybody else answers too.
Thank you. Our first question for the evening will go to Mr. Alexander first, and it comes from McKinley.
Would you like to see the Denali Borough expand its powers beyond education, waste management, and borough land planning? Why or why not?
No, I don't think we really need to expand our powers. We have limited amounts of money to use. The forward funding makes sure that, you know, we stay within the budget. I think now it's at the government is at a pretty good level. And I think that we do a good job of it. I don't think that we need to expand much beyond where things already are.
I tend to agree. Thank you. I tend to agree. I feel like the borough serves its communities well at this stage. You know, I am happy to have a nice transfer station in the area. And I think that the borough does a great job of, you know, providing the basics that the community needs. And so I don't see anything else that it currently needs to expand its powers to go after. You know, we should focus on helping the school with education. I know the land planning is working hard to meet the needs of the community, and, you know, waste management does a great job as well. You know, being those enterprise funds, you know, one of the things that I'll look to do is get in more involved and kind of understand how those are working from a business standpoint. Because it's important that, you know, if there's only so much revenue coming in, you know, the expenses, you know, should match up. And so That's where I would kind of focus on, not expanding anything else, but kind of fine tuning what we currently have. Thank you.
I think fine tuning is a good way to look at everything. It doesn't matter what you're doing. The more efficient you can run things, the better off you'll be. I am an idea person, and so I always have ideas of things that could be done. When it comes to government, particularly our government here, I agree with both people that have already spoken. I don't feel that it's the government's job to put any of my big ideas into place. You know, a swimming pool would be amazing, and I'm sure everybody can think of fantastic things that we could do here. And I would love to see some of those things happen. I don't believe it is the jurisdiction of government to make most of those things happen. So I don't plan on pushing for any type of expansion of borough powers.
Yeah, I kind of hold similar opinions to my colleagues up here as well. In my opinion, less is more. And at the local level here, the Denali Borough does a lot of very, very good things with the limited income sources that we utilize. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of writing on the wall coming down from the state level that we will probably be given road powers. So don't be surprised when that comes up in future conversations, because it is coming down upon us from the state. But other than that, as far as like Mr. Whitman said, it's not necessarily the place of the government to produce these amenities that everybody wants. We need to become an appealing place to live or develop those businesses. Maybe we could break down some of those barriers that make it difficult for new business owners or ideas to shape. But I don't think that the government should be focused on funding them.
I kind of agree with everybody up there. Sounds like we all agree on the same thing. Makes our answers down this way easier, but I mean, to expand power, obviously it takes more revenue and everything to expand the power. So it's something I don't want to see myself. So I think kind of like Jeremy said too, is just refine it, what Walt said. I think we just need to refine what we got there now to make sure we're utilizing our funds for correctly on that. And I believe we are at the moment, but everything can be fine tuned. Thank you.
Yeah. I would also tend to agree for the most part with what folks have set up here. I think the limited government that the borough has taken on has served really well for the last 25 years or so. I do like Parks and Rec, and that typically is, you know, something that's not going to be handled by the private sector. We have lots of public land around here, but the borough has dabbled a little bit recently in kind of trails and trailhead programs, and we have a committee working on that now. And if there was broad community support to put money towards maintaining some of that stuff that supports our local tourism industry, which is kind of driving things, I'd like to see it done. I'd like to see it done well. And then the other part is roads. I think kind of as Kristen mentioned, if the state were to pull back like they have in lots of places to save money and push some of that down to our level. You know, local governments handle that, you know, critical infrastructure, you know, as needed across the country. And if we needed to do that, it's in code now that we could do road service areas for local areas, but anyway.
Okay, our next question will start with Mr. Stanfield, and it will be by Nicholas.
Should the Denali Borough monitor groundwater and surface water quality due to increased seasonal pressure on groundwater usage and increased sewage discharge into drain fields?
You know, unless there's things going on that I'm not aware of, then I would I'd answer it simply no. And, you know, I suppose that that's based on the state handles wells, how far away they are from septic. Septic systems get sized up and are appropriate for whatever is being done. There's engineers involved, there's oversight. And so I don't see that as a borough responsibility. You know, from a commercial standpoint, there's also protections in place. You know, if it's a public well versus private, you know, there's testing, there's already systems in place. So like I said, unless there's, you know, something else that's going on that I'm not understanding, I'd say no.
When dealing with principles, we have to talk about generalities and then deal with exceptions. And so as a general rule, I'm right on board with what's already been said. The standards are already in place. For us to come up with our own set of standards, I mean, the outlay of resources that we would have to put forward in order to do that, you'd essentially create a position, multiple positions that you'd have to fund probably full time to make something like this happen. You could call in an outside consultant. There are a lot of things that you could do in order to do this. All of those things would need to come out of the budget that we already have. And it has already been stated, the state provides standards. If your neighbor is not following those standards and their choices affect your groundwater, there's already a framework in place for you to pursue, I guess, for you to help. There's already structure in place to help you take care of that. And I don't believe that that's something that the borough needs to take on top of what we already have.
Yeah, not to repeat what these folks are saying, but the state and those corporate entities that are increasing our seasonal water drainage, they're responsible for that. The state checks on them. If we have any issues, the borough could certainly take a course towards advocating for their improvement. The only thing on here that I would like to remark is that where the borough is responsible for monitoring the water, which is at the landfill, we do. And everything, our reports have always stated that our 99% pass. You know, we've always been on time. And so where it is our job, we are doing a good job. And then again, if we do ever see or come across any issues, we do have some powers to kind of go after the offenders.
Quick answer, no. Yeah, we shouldn't have to monitor groundwater. Most of bigger companies already have water well monitoring in place already, that I'm aware of. And like Jeremy said, unless I'm aware of something else, I mean, yeah, we shouldn't have to monitor the groundwater and things. Yeah, that's it.
And yeah, I think I would agree with the perspective of most of the people up here that at least as of right now, I don't see any need, or if there was a need, I don't know that it's the borough's role to take that on.
Yeah, this time I get to say what they said. Yeah, they got it right. Yeah, it's not, I don't think that it's something that we should be doing.
All right, our next question will go to Mr. Warner first, and it comes from Addison.
According to census numbers, the population in Denali Borough is decreasing. Does this concern you? Should the borough take a role in reversing this trend?
Thank you. I think it's interesting just how in line we've all been so far, and I'm curious to see if that continues through questions like this. I've heard both sides of this. when you're out in the hills and you're enjoying this beautiful piece of earth that we live in, and, you start hearing somebody else's ATV or whatever, and they start coming closer and closer to you, and you get to enjoy the scenery with somebody that you weren't planning to, it kind of makes you want there to be nobody else living here. When it comes to economic opportunities, obviously tourism funds everything for us, and everybody, or most people at least, would like to improve their financial situation. More people creates more opportunities to improve financially. So on this one, I don't see anything that I don't think the borough needs to be promoting, like trying to recruit people here. I don't plan on promoting anything like that, but I can see where it can become a concern for people, and we'll see how it goes, I guess.
I'm not going to say quite what he said, but one of the things that I noticed with the census numbers in particular is that it's not a very small percentage of a downsizing, but it is kind of a migration. So as we got, say, 3 Bears here in Healy, we've had people move from Anderson or Cantwell to Healy. As the kids get into high school, people kind of come to Healy because there's more kids here, and to give those social opportunities to their children. It does personally concern me when you start looking at school funding. So Cantwell is always on the docket. If we can't get 10 students into Cantwell, then we're gonna have to look at, well, what do we do with Cantwell School and the 6 to 9 people that attend there? Same thing with Anderson. When those numbers kind of shifted into the Healy area, those students came with those families. So it does concern me. I do not see what the borough could do as far as actively reversing the role, other than maybe taking down some barriers as far as giving land up for development or selling that land. Actually, don't just give it away, but you guys know what I mean. But yeah, it's concerning, but we have to have year-round jobs for people if we expect them to live here.
I think with the census numbers, some of them could be skewed a little bit because not everybody may not, want to do the census. So I think that's a hard number to look at, just looking at that. And we get a lot of families that, retire, sell their house and stuff, get new families moving in. So, I think we'll see that, continue, and obviously housing is a thing. So when a house opens up, another person is ready to buy it. So that's population can't grow if we don't have the housing here. Like Z said, open up land and stuff. I think there's opportunities out there to help grow. And that's about the only thing I believe the borough could, help do, that is have land available. See if we can grow that way. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Not totally convinced that the overall population of the borough is really decreasing all that much, but certainly some communities have seen some growth and some communities have seen decline. If we assume that, the borough is decreasing and we are having fewer year-round residents, does that concern me? Yeah, it sure does. That means people are moving away for one reason or another. They don't have a good job, or they can't afford to live here, or whatever that is. So yes, that would be, or is concerning. Whether the borough takes a role in reversing that trend, I think we should be working to make this the best place to live that we possibly can. So I think funding our schools, making sure that the borough does all of the things that it does as best as possible is important. And we do land use planning. So if we're going to take that on, and I think that the biggest barrier to people moving here is having a decent and affordable place to live. I think that, through good land use planning is probably the best or most important thing we can do to address that.
it appears that the population, it is going down. The population, people are, there's more out migration in the state of Alaska as a whole as well. It certainly is concerning. We want to have a vibrant community and, there's certain things that the borough can do to support that. Having a good school system is really important to attracting families to come to the borough. Obviously the economics, having businesses, supporting businesses as best we can is good too. As far as the housing, where, the borough is in the process of opening up a subdivision on borough land in off of Lignite. And so continuing on these processes, I think is as much as we can do and is a good way to go about doing it, just making it a better place to live.
Yeah, on the surface, the quick look, when you look at the numbers, it's a couple hundred people over 10 years of the census. Okay, no big deal. But as you look at it, as a percentage of the population, and as he mentioned, it's significant, it's 10%. We see it, as already mentioned as well, with the schools and the lack of people that are there in our smaller communities and the issue, that's at a head right now. And so it definitely is a concern. As mentioned, you've got to have good quality jobs for people if you want to try to get people in here. But I agree with, protecting what we have here, making this a great place to live. The reason why all of us are here right now, we can just keep pushing that forward. Perhaps we can have other people that can fall in love with this place as well and get those numbers up. But to me, I see, the schools, what we're seeing there is sort of the initial challenge. I'm sure if this continues, there's a rabbit hole that we go down. So yes, it's a concern.
Okay, our next question goes to Ms. Zapone and it comes from McKinley.
Would you support adding a new tax or increasing a current tax in an effort to increase future revenue needs or added programs you are proposing? If you support adding a new tax, please explain what kind of tax.
Everybody's favorite 5-letter word, right? So one of the things that I actually like about the borough structure is that in order to change, modify, add, delete any of our taxes, it has to be a popular vote in a November election. So without the support of all of you, we absolutely couldn't do that, even if we chose to. However, if you look at some of these tour companies that do ATV tours, fishing tours, that don't necessarily have the hotel beds attached to them, which is our primary source of revenue, I could see us instituting something along the lines, without having a formal name, of a luxury sales tax. So if you go on an ATV tour, you're going on a flight tour, you're going fishing with a tour. It can't necessarily target the tourisms or the tourists alone, but we could still go on those tours and pay those taxes if we chose to. So that would be kind of one of my ideas as far as mitigating the impact of those companies. But again, without the popular support of everybody, it's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, this is a bad word. Taxes. For me, I don't support any new taxes. I mean, it's kind of hard, like, Z saying, it's hard to put it luxury tax, I guess. For us here, no, I don't want taxes. And it's hard to make one particular group of people pay for the tax. And we already do that with the bed tax and, alcohol tax and, marijuana tax. And so that's already there. It is targeting certain groups, but to bring it in for everybody, I mean, it's hard to live here already. People, with incomes that are here, it's to put that burden on, the groups here, that would be, I'm not going to do that, so it's a hard one to talk about because like Z said, we could do, go on them same, choose to go on them tours and do all that also and pay the taxes ourselves. But for everybody here to have to pay a new tax, I don't support that.
I think other people paying taxes isn't so bad. We put 2 taxes on the ballot a few years ago and they both passed, which both surprised me. I did not support the alcohol and marijuana tax. I would have preferred to have seen a little broader sales tax, something like on restaurants. So you're not just targeting or so that the only people paying taxes in the borough are the people that drink beer. I think everybody should have a little skin in the game if we're gonna start paying taxes ourselves. So I think like a restaurant tax where everything on the whole bill is included. And you're not competing with Fairbanks, like a broader base sales tax. I don't support, I think it tends to make people with limited income pay more. And it disincentivizes businesses that sell stuff, when they're competing with online and Fairbanks and stuff like that. If we were going to have a tax increase, I think it should be tied to a specific project, like a bond measure where we decide we want to do something big and expensive and everybody votes on it and we decide to pay for it and it's tied to a tax increase. But I would not support any tax increases unless there was a specific need.
I agree with Jared. Right now, I don't think that we need a tax increase. I don't propose a new tax. There might be some time in the future when it would be necessary to increase something, or if, like he said, that we decide on some big project, that would be good. I mean, right now we're, getting most of our revenue from the tourist industry and, you don't want to, kill the goose that lays the golden egg. It's not like this isn't something that we can just keep going back to the well and getting more and more and more money from them. So right now it seems to be at a good level for our budget. And so I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm all along the same lines. I don't see a need for any increase in the current tax structure. I agree with Jared on the point that I don't even think we need the alcohol and marijuana tax. If you look at the budget, Krista mentioned it's forward funding, which is great. They've been able to not only forward fund, but then have contingencies and, when I look at the financials, the borough is currently not spending all of the money that they get. I don't see anything in the pipeline that requires additional money. So for me, I don't see any reason to raise any taxes. As I looked through the tax structure and maybe it's just, I don't understand really the details involved in the severance tax, but as a tax structure, it appears it was instilled in the beginning and hasn't been adjusted. And so I don't know what those million tons of rock that are coming out are getting, paid for, but it represents, I think about $50,000 in the budget. Perhaps there's an opportunity there if the need arises, but I don't, like I said, I don't, quite, I don't know too much about that. So I'll just yield that. No, I don't see any increase in taxes.
No. I've been of the opinion that taxes, as has already been said, funding needs to meet a specific purpose. If you don't have a purpose for your funding, then you don't need the funding because governments get their funding from their constituents. In order for a government to have a budget, they have to get that money somehow. That means that somebody else is giving that money up, many times involuntarily. And so if I was going to make any changes to the tax structure, we would make it as impossible as possible to institute any kind of a property tax or any kind of an income tax. If funding is needed further than what we have, I I like the example. Wasilla is not my favorite town, but they built a library a number of years ago. And everybody said, we want this new library. And they said it's going to cost, they figured out how much it's going to cost. And they said, how are we going to get this money? They raised their sales tax and 3% or whatever, and they put a sunset clause on it. When the library's paid for, we drop this. And if we need funding, it needs to be for a very specific purpose, for a very specific time period, because we don't need to have a bunch more full-time jobs that people have to pay for out of pocket.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Mr. Wells first, and it comes from Nick.
Many business owners who reside outside the Denali Borough come for 4 months to make their fortunes and then leave. Denali Borough is seen as a cash cow for outsiders, and local residents are left paying for the price. What are your thoughts on this, and do you have any ideas on how the borough can help?
Yeah, with so with this one here, I mean, the businesses that come into the borough, it's a little more than 4 months that they're here, actually. You know, and they got the opening, closing months that a lot of people don't see. They spend a lot of money in the borough here with purchasing gas from our gas stations. A lot of residents here actually work for these companies, you know, so it provides jobs for them. That's one of our biggest revenue streams is from these big companies with bed tax, you know, alcohol tax and stuff like that. So I'm here because of the big companies. A lot of people I see in the room are here for the big companies also. So I mean, I don't see that as them coming in just taking money. I mean, this place is a great place for anybody to have an opportunity, you know, to start their own business. It don't have to be just somebody from outside doing it. I mean, everybody's got the same opportunities here to create their own business also. I challenge people to, you know, try to start that business. It's untapped, really. I mean, this is in the beginning. So for me, this is a big one because, you know, that if they wasn't here, then I don't, you know, really we wouldn't be here. I was only talking so Jack could blow his horn too. Yeah.
I guess my thoughts on it are, you know, people come in here to make their fortunes and then leave. I mean, if people leaving is a problem, you know, making the community, you know, more livable, attract people that run those businesses to want to stay here and raise their families here and not leave for a big part of the year would be one part of it. The other part of it is, you know, local residents are left paying the price. And I'm not sure what part of the question that is. Certainly there is a cost to having, you know, a tourism industry here. Like, I don't know if that's what it's getting at, but having all these people coming and living here or staying here for a few days or whatever it is. So if that is kind of the issue, I think that we just, you know, tax that. If that's a cost to our community, you know, we tax the tourists that come here and tax that industry. And then I think we just put it to good use to do some things that make it nice to live here.
Yeah, the question has the, Denali Borough being the cash cow for, these seasonal businesses. I think it's the opposite. They're our cash cow. I mean, that's where we're getting our revenue is through these seasonal businesses. And the beauty of it is in the wintertime, they go and we get the whole place to ourselves. So I think it's a real plus.
Yeah, I agree with a few of the things said over on that side. You know, as a small business owner, if tourism was here year round, we'd be open year round. I see the small businesses as is really a great way to help service the tourists that are coming here and providing the revenue for us. And so as both a seasonal business owner and a year-round resident, I guess I don't see it the way the question was kind of phrased. The tourists fund the borough, and I don't feel like I'm stuck paying the price when everyone leaves, so.
That was very well flipped around, how they are our cash cow. And I can agree with that because they are our funding. When the part of the question that says residents are left paying the price, there are some places that maybe we can actually measure that price. You know, if you go down Dry Creek, you know, look at the damage that's done. Something else that's interesting when governments get involved on a higher level, and why we need to keep it as local as possible. You know, you look at the ATV tour business. You know, we have hundreds of ATVs that are being taken on tours and rented out, and 99% of those are not registered, even though they're required by law to be registered. But one person comes and says, hey, I'm going to start a company. And because people complained, that person has to register theirs. It's very, very easy to make these things unfair. And so that it's not across the board. Something that you could do, you know, road maintenance is something that is a measurable cost. If you use this road for hire, you know, maybe you could put a price on that to help maintain the road. That's a specific thing, a specific price and a specific thing that you could collect on.
It's hard. Yeah, I got pretty similar perspective on this one. I would agree that the tourist industry itself is our cash cow. There's very limited places across the country where the residents don't have a sales tax or a property tax or any of these 5-letter words that we don't like to say in public places. One of the things that could quantify or compensate us as a borough for the ATV tours or for the Jeep excursions or the horses or any of that would be to actually instill and capitalize on the fee schedule that the Denali Borough has been developing for the last several years. We have it quantified to the tire, to the hoof, to whatever it is that there is a quantifiable amount of money that we could collect on that, but it is a matter of putting the effort to instituting that system, which would be business registrations and would be some sort of accounting piece to that. It is not an infeasible project for us to take on, but it would take some very purposeful doing.
Our next question goes to Mr. Zimmerman, and it comes from Addison.
How should the borough's 50,000 acres of municipal entitlement lands be used or managed? Should the focus be on selling, leasing, or having the borough develop the lands itself? Should nothing be done with it?
I think that there are, you know, some immediate needs and opportunities that municipal entitlement lands could be used for. I think affordable housing is one. And I think that if we're planning for the development of lands, that we should have some places set aside for commercial and industrial areas. If somebody wants to move here and start doing some of those things that we don't want in our neighborhoods, that we should have some places set aside that, oh, you want to come here, you know, and wash 500 buses. It's like, oh, you should do that over here. This is the right place for that kind of thing. So I think that, yeah, we should have a good plan in place, and we should encourage the people that want to invest in that land to do it in the right locations. And we should support them in those efforts.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. The land, certain portions of the borough's land are good for subdivisions, like the one that we're, in the process of developing now. And I think that's a great idea. Add some affordable housing or just housing into the area. Some is better for maybe some commercial development, some is better for recreation. So I would say you can't necessarily make a blanket statement. Every bit of it should be considered and, plan come up with and used in the manner that it's best suited for the good of the community, because it's community land.
Yeah, on a personal level, it seems like land is desired for residents, and if you follow along at the different meetings, we have a land management plan. There's an annual work plan that goes along, and the Planning Commission is actively working on all of these things. And I've been impressed with watching them and feel like they are listening to the communities and trying to make that happen for them. It's a lot of land. It's a little bit of a slower process, but I don't think the borough is necessarily equipped to be developing the land on their own. I think there is some small leaseholds in there, and perhaps there's some commercial leases that can be done, but residential seems to be the focus, and it's actively being worked on, so I'm happy to support that.
Land use is something that is definitely in the purview of the responsibilities of the borough, in my opinion. The land that is under the management, under the stewardship of the borough, there are plenty of options of things to do with it. I do like things that, we're looking at this rec center, and that involves, the borough managing some land. There are other projects, there are other developments that could come to our community that could potentially become a significant draw for people who want to live here. And that will require the borough allocating lands for that. The rec center, healthcare. When we talk about housing, I don't believe that the borough has any business developing housing on their own. Subdivisions, allowing private people to provide housing on their own, that's something that absolutely needs to be looked into. I hurt because, some of my good friends that live here, and myself included, would love for Healy to stay very small. It's not realistic. Lands do need to be developed.
Yeah, I would agree with most of the things being said. Residential land, or the borough opening up some of its land for these subdivisions, has been a well-anticipated development, to say the least. As far as how or what or should, when we took on this project several years ago with our land planning effort, we did hire an outside contractor consultant who did survey anybody who was interested to attend any of those meetings. The borough then reviewed that information, the assembly reviewed that information, then we presented it again. And so I think that we, as a borough, the citizens here were heard. And so they did kind of develop an overarching plan or an idea. And then as we, as the planning commission or the assembly alike, have dwindled through those things, we have a very good starting block. And those things take time. And because we do listen to everybody who voices their opinion, it takes a lot of time to get these things done.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with everybody else with, housing is one thing, like subdivisions. Need more places like that, like Walt said, us not particularly building the houses or providing the houses, but the spot for the housing. We do have some subdivisions here that are on the map that really don't have the roads to it. So, I mean, if we start building a subdivision, we need to follow through with that and complete that. I mean, I think the people that own the land out these other subdivisions, if they were more accessible, then I think we'd have more housing out there. I mean, you go out there and there's a swamp, so it's not feasible to go out there. So if we are looking at doing something like that, then we need to follow through and, make it actually a subdivision and not just on a piece of paper. And opening up some land for commercial, that would be good. I mean, there's not much of that around here. What's here is like, can't go south much past the Nana Bridge there. So, so what we have is north. So there's land that direction. So I think we just need to develop what we have.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Mr. Alexander first, and it comes from McKinley.
Given substantially decreased state funding due to dwindling enrollment in our local schools and the constant threat of zero state funding for 2 of the 3 schools, can the borough continue to be fiscally responsible in operating 3 separate schools? Should the Denali Borough focus and place its resources on one regional school?
Like I said earlier, having a good school system is really important to attracting residents and attracting new families. And if the school's not good or there, what are the chances of the family's going to move in? And I feel like if you decide to close the school in Anderson or in Cantwell, you're almost, in a sense, giving up on that community, which is something that, the borough has made clear that we don't want to do. The assembly, and the borough fully funds as much as legally allowed to the schools to give them as much money as we can. And the other aspect of this is that since we own those school buildings and have to keep them maintained, we have those costs anyway. So the additional costs of keeping those schools running is, less than it would otherwise be. But I think the main thing is that I just don't think that, we do not want to give up on these communities. And if you let the schools close, I think that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And, it's definitely a hot topic and has been talked about. It comes down to the funding and the amount of people at the schools. And I imagine, you probably get some great comments on that tomorrow night as well. But, from the assembly standpoint, I appreciate that in the past, they have always funded the school, as well as not just what's required, but as much as possible. Schools are, it was $2.5 million of, almost half the budget goes to the schools. And I think that's great. And I would continue to support that as the school, works through these challenges. And I would continue to support that.
They say politics is all about making friends. I'm running unopposed, so I'm going to say what I want. I believe that the federal funding of schools is one of the worst parts of America. And if you look back at our history, it hasn't actually been going on for that long. We're so deep into it, I don't think we're going to pull out of that anytime soon. But if you want to, I think that taxes need to be dollars and cents and not feelings. If you look at dollars per student spent, it makes absolutely no sense to keep those schools open. If the money is there, maybe we should continue to do it. But if the money goes away, efficiency wise, when you talk about spending, orders of magnitude more per student so that they can stay home or closer to home to go to school, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
I kind of am on the line that the Denali Borough is handcuffed in a way by the way we're allowed to fund our schools. It is a certain amount. There's no more. Even if we had more, we couldn't give it to the schools, even if we wanted to, which in the past, the assembly has always been very supportive of funding public education. And then I think about being responsible for these buildings or these properties, even if there's not a school. So the borough would have to take on keeping Cantwell heated enough that it didn't break down, or Anderson heated enough that it didn't become so dysfunctional that you couldn't even sell it to somebody. But then on a social level, if these kids from Cantwell are coming to Healy, say, every day, that's a 2 hour, 2.5 hour, 3 hour in a snowstorm bus ride for these kids on top of their 8 hour school day. Same thing from Anderson. There's also a very distinct community in each of these places. So if we take Cantwell and we remove them from that school building, they're going to lose their attachment to what it is to be in that Cantwell community. Yeah, it's a struggle when you have to have a certain number of people and there's not certain numbers of jobs down there for folks to live on, but I'm against closing the schools.
So as we have the buildings we have to maintain right now. I mean, one thing we could do or look into is, what other purpose could these school buildings serve? I mean, if we already have them, and already have to spend the money on them, they could serve another purpose, and that might be a direction we need to look at going. We've got the buildings there, what can the community maybe use them for to, make it more financially responsible to do it if we already got it going on there. So, I mean, that's one thing to, I think, look into for doing for either school. I mean, you got Clear down at Anderson, something, I think that's what we just generally look into. What could they actually be maybe repurposed for something else? So we already have them, so just come up with some ideas.
I do think that we can be fiscally responsible and operate the three schools. And I think if the situation in any one of the communities got to the point where we didn't want to do that, I think it would be evident to everyone. So I do not think that we should be focusing the resources on one regional school right now. I think we should make sure that we have three great schools that attract people to live in three great communities.
Our 8th question will go to Mr. Sandfield and will come from Nicholas.
Do you think the Denali Borough should promote winter tourism? If so, how? How would you approach Denali National Park?
The winter tourism, I think, is a tough sell with the climate up here. We have this beautiful park that everyone comes to see. And while the Park Service, does stay open on a limited basis, there's not people that are coming. If you were to try to increase that, the winter traffic and tourism, there's a lot of infrastructure that's not set up for that. When I think of all of the buildings in the boardwalk and things like that, like They're not ready for winter. There's all of the staff leaves. There's not the population to continue to serve them. There perhaps, I think, could be some opportunities to try and maybe extend the season on each side a little bit. Again, it's kind of weather dependent and the infrastructure's not in place. I think it's something good to talk about and think about, but you know, I guess I don't have all of the answers for that right now. I think winter tourism is tough.
I think that's something that's going to happen organically, and it would be easy to promote and prop things up and have it all come crashing down. If you invest a lot of energy and resources into something that doesn't have the infrastructure, then eventually the bottom falls out. Organically, winter tourism is already starting to grow. You know, the Aurora tours and things like that are becoming more common. There are new buildings coming up. There is infrastructure coming online from the private sector. I don't really see, you know, if an individual or business comes to the borough and says, hey, I've got this great idea for winter tourism. You know, maybe we could help facilitate it, you know, through our land allocation management. We could maybe help something like that along, but I don't really see the point of having the borough put a very large focus on that and investing a bunch of time or resources to that.
I think we could do with some winter tourism. We do have some private entities that have already breached that. Like mentioned before, it is a good point that the shops and the boardwalk area is not winterized or winter ready at all. So if we do have a sudden influx of winter tourism, where are they going to buy their souvenirs? Where are they going to stay? We are fairly limited as far as what we can provide as a community for that right now. The Denali National Park does stay open on a limited basis. They do provide snowshoes and skis and things for people to use, but it is a harsh place. And with how busy it is in the wintertime, I think most of us can agree that we kind of like the lull of winter. Kind of gives us time to enjoy Alaska, even if it is in the winter. But there is also a couple different organic opportunities that I would happily talk about later, since my time's going to run up. But yeah, I think it's an inevitable thing, really. The season's going to get extended, and we're going to have winter tours. I mean, Fairbanks makes a ton of money in the winter with dog sleds and Aurora tours and etc.
I believe we should promote winter tourism. I mean, we got, you know, 4 months a year that's we're open for, and you know, what happens to the rest of it. But we got to look at, you know, we do we want to be that big, or do we not want to be that big? That's the one thing. Start promoting winter tourism, then we have people here year round. So it's have your cake and eat it too. I think, you know, if it's that's the hard one, because do we want what we really think we want? With the winter tourism, though, I think there's a lot of opportunity that can be, and you know, with the park, it don't necessarily have to be the park that we'd have to approach. I mean, there's different things around here that, you know, when we had our prior business, we kept a lot of people that came through, that we'd send them to the local hotels and dog sled tours and everything else, and they would come back to us excited that we knocked 2 days off their trip, you know, and just going to China. That's where they were headed. But so I think the opportunities are here, and if it's, you know, revenue stream with hotels and things like that, I mean, I think we should promote that.
Yeah, I think tourism is growing in the wintertime. A lot of it's day trippers right now that doesn't leave a lot of money in the community. So I think if we want to really promote tourism with the idea, that's going to kind of benefit the community economically or kind of change the industry here. It's convincing people to come down and spend a couple of days to spend a night here instead of a night in Fairbanks and whatever that is. So just a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. I'd like if there was a few restaurants to choose from here, in the wintertime, wouldn't complain about that. But in terms of like, what can the borough do to promote that? I think we support the Chamber of Commerce and, the work that they're doing, in that regard. And then we've got our bed tax. So, if we want to get serious about it, and if we thought like a winter tax holiday, on the bed tax would, change somebody's mind that they're going to come spend a night here in Denali versus, Fairbanks, we could try that out if we were serious about it, but I don't know if we're quite there.
Winter bed tax holiday. I kind of like the sound of that. That's kind of a fun thing. I think that we, this year, if I'm not mistaken, we contributed a certain amount to the Chamber of Commerce for a marketing program for the first time. And I think that it would make sense to contribute a certain amount to market the winter. It's definitely a chicken or egg thing. If we have people down here and businesses will open up and you have to have the demand first, but a little infrastructure. I mean, we have the basic infrastructure. It's easy enough to, well, not easy enough, but at least there's a bunch of hotels or whatever. We could also do some things as a community to make it more appealing, and also through our recreation committee, whether it be cross-country skiing trails or getting a cover for the ice skating rink, that would be, a resource for winter tourism. But I think the first step would be, to shake free some marketing dollars for promoting the winter.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Mr. Warner first, and it comes from Addison.
Companies are extensively using our borough lands and public lands for tourism and profit. The impacts via heavy usage and erosion are clearly visible. In addition, this public land has been completely taken over, and locals who used to hike, hunt, and recreate on this public land can no longer use it. These companies are profiting off of public lands. They pay zero in local taxes. Why is this tolerated? Should these companies pay for their use and impact?
I think we covered this a little bit already, or at least touched on it. I didn't realize that there's already a mechanism in place, as he said, to start charging for these companies. And maybe that needs to be instituted. That is something that you can measure the damage, because you can see how much it costs to fix the damage that's done to roads and lands. And so maybe that needs to be actually put into place. The part of the question, though, it says that these companies are profiting off of public lands, and it's important to remember that these are public lands. It would be wonderful if each of us could have this whole place to ourselves. I would very much enjoy that. That's not how it works. But when actual damage is being done to the land, to infrastructure, that is something that it sounds like we already have a mechanism in place. It just needs to be enforced.
Yeah, they are public lands, and we can't infringe upon those rights of anybody, myself included. I'd be a little upset, be like, no, we're having a tour, you can't be here. But like I mentioned earlier, the fee schedule, it does exist. We've put a lot of work into it, but we haven't taken that final plunge into actually figuring out how to institute it as a business practice, I'll call it. As far as what the damages are being done, you could portion part of that fee schedule towards trails, you could portion it towards roads, you could portion it towards developing new trails or roads or those maintenance fees. I wouldn't say it's necessarily tolerated as far as the impact, but it is a part of the gig. We're bringing thousands of people here every summer. They're going to want to go on these activities. And luckily we have businesses that have taken the initiative to provide those without us having to do any active work at a government level. But I would really like to see that be instituted. We update it every year. It's a matter of getting business license requirements and collecting the information and then formulating it in such a way.
So by what I'm reading is, they're taking over and locals hike, hunt and recreate. I mean, I've been on the same trails and I still enjoy them myself. I don't see them as taking over. Are they annoying? Sometimes they come to my house 4 times a day, so I can listen to the spiel. But on the other side of that, a lot of the people that work for these companies are locals here, and so they're creating jobs. On top of that, so we can't take away the jobs. That's what we want here is jobs. And looking at the, not paying any local taxes, I know, I mean, I don't pay a local tax. That's what I'm reading. So I don't pay a local tax. They do purchase fuel for, I know where this is directed to mostly, but so they are buying fuel, so they are putting money into our town. I don't see them as a big of a hindrance. I mean, we have to live with them 4 months a year. I don't see we tolerate them, but we live with them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I live out on the Stampede Road, Stampede Trail, and I know it was 10, 15 years ago. At one point we had 4, maybe 5 different tour companies working out there, and trail conditions deteriorated, year to year, to the point that I don't think any tour companies are operating out there right now. Got too expensive to haul out the broken Jeeps, so they weren't maybe making as much money, whatever it was. So yeah, it's a real concern, on state land. There was really very little recourse anybody can do. We have different, situation, where some of these tours are taking place on borough lands, and we do have the means in place to recoup, I think, some of that cost. I would like to see recouping, or at least kind of repairing or kind of maintaining the trails in those affected areas be the top priority for any funds taken, from tours in those areas, if that makes sense. So should companies pay for their use and impact on borough lands? Yeah, I think so.
Yes, I agree. It's seems perfectly appropriate to charge a use fee for commercial users on borough property, and to earmark that revenue towards the repair and maintenance of borough land. So I would agree, and I think that we should continue on the path that we've been doing, and get those fees going.
I guess I don't feel like the public lands are taken over. If I'm going out on my 4-wheeler, I'm gonna still go, use the trail, or whatever the trail may be, but I think it's I think it's a little tough to go after these companies for using the land. And see how to say this. Yes, they don't pay local taxes, but they pay the same taxes as you and I. The borough, it doesn't seem like anyone's concerned to go out and fix any other trails that maybe are rutted out or not usable. It's sort of living out in the wild, and you go out there, and to me, to go put a tax or to try to get money, I don't see, it feels like just doing it to try to get money. And I guess I don't feel taken advantage of them.
Our final question for the evening goes to Ms. Sapone, and it comes from McKinley.
The Alaska Railroad owns over 6,000 acres of land in the heart of Denali Borough. Until recently, a railroad has never been for sale. What about our local residents who would like to purchase railroad land for their own private homes or small businesses? Should the borough pursue this land to enable economic development and private land ownership in a more equitable manner?
So the railroad land is a quagmire all of its own, because it's up to the state and the state's Department of the Railroad to decide whether they want to sell that to anybody, let alone local residents or the borough at large. There are a few different lease options that the borough pursues through the railroad. And then, as you all are aware, the subdivision land became up for sale. And that's due to the financial status of the railroad itself. And I don't necessarily want to count on or predict that they're going to continue down that trail. But we do have plenty of other land that we can develop and lease or sell to folks. So it would be nice if we could be in charge of the land within the borough, but there are a lot of other elections and state barriers before any of that can really happen.
Yeah, on the railroad land, like Z is saying, I mean, it's state owned and they're the one that run that. I don't know myself personally what the avenues are to do that. Just never been involved with that part of it, so can't really speak on that part. I know the chamber actually put out here recently something about businesses and things that can look into, you know, you go down your own avenue and see what's available instead of, you know, having a borough pursue it. Individual can go and pursue it themselves, and you know that's happened, and some land got sold. So it's, you know, do some research yourself and see what avenues you can go down. And the chamber is a great source of a lot of answers. So I mean, let's giving them a shout out, I guess. So look into the chamber and see what's available out there.
I don't think that the borough should pursue the purchase of railroad lands for economic development. I think we've got a lease in place over at Otter Lake Park to keep that the way it is, and I think that has worked pretty well. I wouldn't be opposed if they wanted to sell Otter Lake Park to the borough, that we put some money towards it, but if we can do it without spending a ton of money, then let's say keep it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I do think that the borough could encourage and support the Alaska Railroad to make some of those lands available. The municipal entitlement lands that we have, the borough is a little late in the game, so we didn't get a lot of other real estate in downtown Healy. The lands that we got are kind of dispersed throughout the borough, and the railroad does have some high quality land that's suited for development. So I think that the borough can encourage that, but I don't think we should take it on ourselves.
To be perfectly honest, I'm not that familiar with the whole issue. And, but my understanding of it is, our ability to influence any decisions that the railroad makes in the sale lands are kind of limited. Yeah, that's it.
Right, I'm with you. I mean, it's railroad's a state-owned corporation. They can do what they want with their land, and I encourage if there's a local resident that wants to purchase it for their own private home or small business to try and do it. I don't see it as a borough to be involved with.
Yeah, there's a pathway, there's means for individuals or businesses to pursue land from the railroad on their own. And again, if there's a specific need that we specifically need this specific land from the railroad, we can deal with that then, but I'm not aware of any such need right now.
We will now give each candidate an opportunity to present a 2-minute closing speech. So we will start with Mr. Zimmerman.
Thanks again to the students in the school for hosting the forum. It was great to participate and hear everybody else's answers to the questions here tonight. Looking forward to tomorrow night and to the mayor's forum next week. So thanks in advance for that. And yeah, I hope everybody gets out to vote by mail or vote in person. But yeah, appreciate everybody's interest, and yeah, I hope I get your support on election day.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out too. Man, I feel old looking around at all these young adults that are sitting here that I've watched grow up. It's like, man, everybody's getting older, but thank you for coming out. Thanks for doing this, Daryl. Thanks for keeping the students involved. We need more of that. And like Jared said, encourage everybody to come out and vote. I mean, the turnout for voting is fairly low over all the years. So, I mean, everybody needs to be involved, and nobody really comes out until, it affects them or don't even know what's happening or something. You gotta put the effort out yourself to get out and see what's happening instead of reacting to it. But just thanks everybody again for coming out.
Yeah, thank you guys for your time and attention today. Thank you to the students for putting these questions together and for being engaged. I've been to a couple different school events, and I am actually quite proud of our students and how much they care about how things work or why. So it is my honor to be here tonight. The Denali Borough does a lot of things very, very well. We have room for improvement, of course, but as far as taking care of our citizens and being fiscally responsible, I'm very proud to be a part of it and hope to continue to do so.
I am super impressed with the students that put this together. This is really neat. There aren't too many schools that I'm aware of that do something like this. And this is the second one of these that I've seen for the election on a national level that you guys put together. That was amazing. Great job. My conclusion is going to revisit the question about schools because it sums up my views on politics. I have two experiences, my own lived experience growing up. I grew up in Willow, and we had a high school that was about 40 miles north of us, and we had a high school that was about 40 miles south of us. And my community, the kids that I went to elementary school with, made up, boy, there were probably 80 kids out of the 400 that went to Houston High School that lived close to me. We did not get our own high school. There was probably 40 kids that went north. So we had 120 kids, and we did not get our own high school. I worked in King Cove one year, and they had a school that was about like this school, and it was not in use. They had just opened a $23 million building in town. There were 500 people in that community. There are things that we want everybody wants their own school with a full-time teacher that's professionally trained. But my philosophy on politics is politics are run by taxes, and taxes need to be spent as efficiently as possible. And so it doesn't matter if I'm talking about schools, or if I'm talking about roads, or if I'm talking about any other good service that we want government to provide. I believe that our funds ought to be treated as sacred and used as efficiently as possible.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for putting this together. That's very much appreciated. Thank you for listening. To echo a few of the comments, I think the borough is doing a really good job. I'd love to help continue that forward. So I would appreciate your vote on election day. And tell your friends. I'm sure a lot of the people here are engaged and here for a reason, but in the past, 3/4 of this community won't get out and vote. And so I think it's important, and perhaps this could be a good opportunity with the redistricting and all of these positions open to engage the community, your family, your friends, because it's important, and hopefully we can keep this momentum going for future years, because it's your borough.
Yes, thanks to students. Thanks for everybody that came. This is a really nice event. Everybody go out and vote. It's very important. This is a big year, especially with the mayor coming up. And I just wanted to say, like I started off with, the borough is run by your neighbors who are just trying to do the best that they can for their neighbors. And, it's really been quite a good experience, being an assembly member and seeing how it all works. And I'm very impressed with how things have been going. And I think that we should continue on this path of sort of limited government with incremental changes and, getting better and better and better every year. Everybody go out and vote. It's really important. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The Tri-Valley 11th and 12th grade English class would like to thank our school staff for all your help. Thank you to our community members for your questions. And finally, thank you to the candidates for answering some tough questions and being willing to represent our communities and borough.
After the forum, there will be a meet and greet to ask any other questions you may have. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Oh, holy crap, I like it. Oh, I really